What's good, YouTube? It's your main man, AB the Hero, back again with another video. Today's video, we're going to watch a clip from the Pivot podcast. They have an interview featuring Michael Beasley, former NCAA hoop star, #2 pick overall, NBA, bounced around the league, all of this stuff. And Mike Beasley just always seemed like, to me, one of those characters who just felt like he was misunderstood. And this podcast here episode is one of the realest things that I've ever seen from an NBA player. And I want to get into that with y'all today. Let's get into it.
AB the Hero, back at it, baby.
All right, so first things first, I appreciate each and every one of y'all for sliding on that like button. Y'all the real MVPs. Channel is growing. We almost at 21,000 subs, so thank you very much. All right, now this episode of the Pivot podcast, they got a whole story and how this got created and why they named it the Pivot. That's inspiring, epic in itself. But basically they have interviews with pro athletes and people in that genre, and they sat down with Mike Beasley. And you can tell from watching this interview that initially what they wanted to have happen was him to talk them through that basketball journey, his career, and all of that stuff. But this interview ended up just getting real. It ended up getting raw, and Mike Beasley felt like he got some stuff off his chest that was like commendable. It was something that I felt like a lot of people could relate with. It was added a new perspective on how I feel like people should be viewing athletes, right? Because all of the times you hear these people say, "Man, you got all of this money, why you ain't happy? I'll do this. You give me $1 million and it's easy." And you see how life can really wear folks down, right? And it's like there's a life that happens before you got that $1 million, right? There's life that happens before this life-altering event, and you still got to deal with that no matter how much money you have, period. And Mike Beasley really shed some light on that. I'm telling you, this interview is so good, like legitimately we could skip down this timeline at any point and there's probably a nugget or something to take. But I want to start here with y'all. Let's listen to this part.
Yeah, so like every school I went to, we like won the championship in that division, kind of like on to the next. I never went to the same school twice.
When you were bouncing around, every time you were bouncing around for whatever reason, what type of relationships were you able to build through that though? Or did you always feel like you were alone, and how did you become Michael Beasley, the basketball star, through all of that?
So you want the real, or you want
I want the real. Yeah, I want to know, like, wait, this the Pivot, dog. Like, we ain't here to cut it up.
The real
like
ain't
nobody invited you here, dog, to not be who you are.
Like I learned from an early age, nobody care about you unless you're good at basketball. When I say like an early age, I mean like 4, 5 years old. I remember Shaq getting drafted, my uncle coming home, rest in peace, and he had took my cousin to see him. How the story went, I just remember that's the first person he ever like, Shaq this, Shaq this, Shaq this, da da da. And I was just always big as shit my whole life. So every time anybody meet me, it was always, when you get to the NBA, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. You know what I'm saying? So from early on, it was just like, play basketball, do what I need, and just go, type shit. But like, my family was more into the other side. More
let me pause it real quick. All right. So check. That's deep right there. He's saying that at the early age of 4, he learned that being an athlete, excelling at sports, being a good basketball player is how you get love, appreciation, accolades from people. And he learned that at a young age because the only person he ever saw get flowers was Shaq from his uncle. The only person anybody had ever like just bigged up, he was like, Shaq is the man. Oh my God, Shaq. And he said, damn, hold on, Shaq hoop. He's a big dude. I'm a big dude. Maybe that's how I get love. Come on, man. Do you think about that cycle, right? We hear oftentimes in the culture, especially back in the day, I'm hoping that it's changing now, right? But especially with social media, I feel like it's changing a bit. But they used to say you either going to sling the rocks, rap, or you got a wicked jump shot, right? And then when people always talk about why that is because they say those are the people who we saw getting success. Those are the people we saw with money. The guy from the hood who hooped, played ball, or played football, and now is coming back and spreading money through the hood, right? That's the guy we saw. The guy who's still in the hood, but he's slanging them. That's the guy who we saw do it. Or the dude who rapped and was out the hood and was touring around the world and did all that. Those are the people who make it from where, and then that made people chase those paths. That's what he's saying. That's a prime example of, oh man, so this is how you get it. I remember, and I'm not going to talk too much about my personal stuff right now, but I remember the first time being like, oh, wait a minute. This is, for one, this is what money looks like, right? Not because when he talk about it, even in here, right? When you're in a certain environment, you don't even realize that you ain't got it until you get around people who do got something, and then you're like, oh, we over here broke. Let's keep going. Let me see. And like I said, we really could slide down here and get into some stuff. Let me see if I can find a good point to listen to. Let's
basketball. Check. Every time they said I got pulled over with a bag of fucking weed, every time somebody fucking lied on me about something, bro, I was in everybody. That's how I feel. And I sit there and I work 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 and I put hours in, I put hours in, I put hours in. And I watch everybody else make their own narrative. We ain't get this when I was young. They told us to shut the fuck up. 2008 coming in, all we had is Twitter and Facebook. When you stepped wrong, it was fucked up. I remember I walked in the fucking club and somebody was smoking a Black and Mild. Somebody tweeted about that shit. I went to the fucking gym and I got in trouble for it like I had it in my fucking hand. Nigga, that ain't shit I couldn't do shit. And now that it's your own narrative.
Does it give you a place where you can speak freely?
No.
Here's what I'll say, right? And this is another piece that I appreciate, and I think that is changing the landscape of sports, is that there are opportunities like this podcast, like the I Am Athlete podcast, like the JJ Redick's, the Draymond Green, where we are getting an insight on how these athletes think, their side of the story, and it's through media outlets from people with like-minded interests, right? It's through people who understand how the BS plays a part in the news cycle. And it's not just the guy who is the Stephen A. Smith whose sole purpose is to create a television show that people want to watch, no matter if that's drama or whatever. And these people create the narratives, and every day we're going to feed the analytics, the SEO. What does people want to hear? What does people want to hear? How can I turn this up? How can I do this? What's the drama here? What's the drama? And now we get this opportunity to hear from Mike Beasley, who I want to say probably would have been in the league 10, 12 years. And we get our first opportunity to hear from his mouth how he feels, what's his side of the story on these things. And we're in a place where he still feels a bit uncomfortable even sharing his own narrative, right? And there's a quote that he says in here that, man, that hit me so good, whereas he says, secrets turn into information, right? So they start asking him later on about some of his mother passed, his cousin passed, like really in this short time span. And he wanted to take a break from the team, but he couldn't do it because he's like, man, if I keep telling them all of this bad stuff is happening to me, they're going to think I'm lying. They're going to think that I don't want to play and I don't want to be here. And they was like, well, did you go see a counselor or something? He's like, yo, secrets equal information. You start sharing your secrets, you start sharing how you feel, and it becomes a report for you, and people start to use it against you. I will tell you this, and this just brought this up for me. This is a personal experience. I remember when I played ball in college, it was tough, right? I went from starting every game to playing in every game, but not starting, to like strictly special teams at some point over a couple years. And mentally it became hard, right? Because you're supposed to be a student athlete, right? And they used to always say, you're a student I mean, you're an athlete and a student, right? So saying like, yo, you're a student, second, an athlete first, and people never understood that, like, what was happening on the field oftentimes affected what was happening in the classroom as well, right? So I remember I was just going through it, and I used to have this like reoccurring dream where I didn't even want to be out there no more, right? And I like would have a dream where I told one of my coaches this. I had this dream where in order for me not to have to go practice or not do that, I had like crashed my car in the dream to intentionally miss, right? And I remember I told him that, and then one thing led to another, and later on, and after I stopped playing, I remember one of my teammates making a joke about some like, you know what I mean, like about saying something about me like not wanting to live or something like, and I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh yeah, man, coach and them said this, and his coach wasn't even my coach. So when they talk about secrets becoming information, I like sat down with one of my coaches, told him how I was feeling at the time, and he went straight back and shared the information with these coaching staff, and then they started using it as a talking point to be like, oh, but he didn't even really want to be here. And I remember being like, damn, like, wait a minute, that was crazy. And legitimately, it turned into a joke amongst the other guys, right? And that was the time where I'm talking about, like, I'm feeling some type of way. Like, I don't even want to be here. And that was how that went. But like I said, this is an amazing episode, man. They go through so much information here, and it's entitled former NBA star Michael Beasley breaks down talking lost and needed help. And he just talks a lot about how he like has been asking people for help his entire career, and people just like, man, you got the money, man, you'll be all right, and kind of just ignoring it or kind of passing it off. And you really see the passion and just just how hard it's been for my dude here. And I don't know, it's just an interesting thing. I'll also tell you one story. I remember way back in the day, I used dating this young lady, and this when we were in college or whatever, and he was at Kansas State. He was still in college, and I went to school in Kansas, and so they went to the game or something like the tournament or something. She was telling me about how she met Mike Beasley, and he tried to get the number, and I was like, I know you ain't giving the number, right? You ain't do it. She was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, all right, cool. I felt good because I'm like, yo, he obviously going to the pros, high draft. If you ain't give him the number, then we solid. She might have gave him the number. Who knows? She made man, AB the Hero. We out. Peace.
No, not peace. +1, triple B's. We out.
Yeah,